Are you wondering what's going on with the San Jose, California real estate market as of July 2020? In the middle of March of this year, we had shelter in place due to coronavirus. Now we've been gradually releasing those restrictions, and how has it affected the real estate market? Well, let's look at the real data so you get real information. Hi, I'm Theresa Wellman with HomeownerExperience.com, your local San Jose, California realtor. Today we're going to discuss real data so that you have accurate information to make informed decisions. I love to dig into that data, so let's go straight to the computer.
Okay, here we are with the overview graphic that I've been posting the last several months. So we are looking today in July 2020 at the closed data all the way through the end of June, ending with June 30th sales. So as you can see here on the bottom, there is an increase of 4.8% in the average price compared to the previous month of May. Pretty amazing, right? And I think even more shocking is that the 74% increase in the number of sales. Now, if you watched my video last month, you know that the pending sales were way up to pretty much normal for May, and that is now reflected here in the sales for June. So there were 396 units that closed in June 2020, and that's just 10% off from June 2019 at 444 in San Jose. So that is pretty fabulous considering we're coming off of the coronavirus shelter in place and things are just gradually loosening. And we are still dealing with a lot of restrictions and showing properties and getting people into them. Year to date, the first 6 months of sales in San Jose are actually down 20% from 2019 because I feel like we had a really pause or lull, especially that first 4 to 5 weeks of the shelter in place, so mid-March through mid-April. And that really affected the number of sales that have happened. But I think our spring has arrived, even though it's summer. Shelter in place and the coronavirus did delay a lot of the activity, and we're seeing it pick up right now. And I mentioned already, the sales are up. The average price was up 4.8% from last month, but year over year, what do you think? I think you might be shocked. It was up 7.7% year over year. And why is that? Why do you think with the shelter in place and the economic environment and outlook being unsure that has happened? Well, really, it's a pure thing of supply and demand. Our inventory is really low. So let's go ahead and look at the next page. Today's a seller's market because our days of inventory is all the way down to 28 again. That's where we were in February, and we're back there, believe it or not. So all single family homes in San Jose will sell in 28 days or less at that current rate of sales, which is pretty fast moving market. And the inventory actually decreased in June from May, if you believe it or not, just because the buyers really got out and gobbled up a whole bunch of that. And we are down inventory-wise 50% from 2019. That's significant, obviously. And this is the 11th month in a row where we've had a lower year-over-year inventory. So meaning, our inventory has just been lower than 2019 for the same time. That's pretty big deal also. And we kind of expected that, of course, in shelter in place, but prior to that, and now as we're kind of loosening up restrictions, that still holds true, 11th month in a row. Now, June pending sales are even up from May. May was a huge jump, but June is up 10% more from May, and we're up 6% year over year, if you believe it, in June. Because, like I said, this is kind of more of our spring market, so, when our sales were slower in March and April, we're now starting to make up for that. The sales price to list price ratio on the closed sales was 101.1%. So that's an increase from the previous month, and it is definitely picking up a little bit. But I would expect the following month, based on what I'm seeing out in the field, for that number to be even more significant. I'm seeing multiple offers and properties selling for quite a bit over asking again. And so I do expect that metric in August or the closed July sales to really show a bigger increase than that. And this is a huge increase again. Last month we were seeing 51% of the inventory in contract, and right now we're up to 55%. So again, just showing the market is really picking up and hot, and much more activity than expected for June. So now let's look at the chart with a full perspective of the last several years. This goes all the way back to January 2012, and I'm going to highlight these last several years here. You see 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So let's compare this year in the yellow bar, the last 3 months being April, May, and June, with 2019, April, May, and June. So one of the things I really want to point out is this yellow line, which you see here in the chart table, is actually the inventory. So the inventory last year was not super high. It was lower than what we'd seen several years except for 2017. But look at this year. Look at the inventory. Wow, right? You can see that 50% that I mentioned in the stats before is significant. It is much lower. And we did have a little jump up there in May, and then June the inventory dropped a little. But look at the green bars, which is the sales. Huge jump back up to pretty normal for June. If you compare this 2019 June to 2020 June, you see the bar size is pretty similar. And then I said it was just 10% less. And the prices you're seeing now are starting to jump up. And here's where we were in March before the shelter in place happened. So those were sales that happened in February. And then we had a little peak with the drop with the shelter in place. And now we're recovering that. Now compare what I mentioned year over year. We are up. Look at that. We are definitely up year over year, no question about that. And we're actually getting close to those numbers that we saw in 2018. So very interesting market that we're experiencing, probably quite contrary to what a lot of people are thinking that they would see in San Jose with the shelter in place. But what I can tell you, and I've been saying this for the last several months, is that the home buyers who are making purchases in Silicon Valley area are buyers who are obviously still employed, working from home remotely, working at high-tech companies. The people who have experienced unemployment are likely the people in our local area that aren't able to afford housing, unfortunately, or to purchase housing, at least in the single-family market. So let's go ahead and look at another chart that I tend to track is the average prices in Santa Clara County versus the S&P 500. And if you've seen my videos again before, you've noticed that I've talked about this. The yellow circles are where those two metrics have actually diverged. This goes all the way back 20 years. So it is pretty significant when the Santa Clara County real estate market prices differ from or separate off the trend from the S&P 500. And we did see that happening in late 2019, which told me that the market was really going to heat up, but then we had shelter in place affect the stock market or coronavirus and really drop those prices. So that's kind of tempered prices, even though that stock market has recovered almost all the way. Prices are starting to show some increase as well. Now, interest rates are what's driving our buyers right now. I think that's a huge part of it. It is very inexpensive money. And this is looking at average mortgage rates for a conforming loan, which we definitely are doing more jumbo loans in San Jose area. But a 30-year fix is around 3%. So a jumbo loan, I'm seeing maybe 3 1/8 or 3 1/4, a little bit higher, but not significantly. And historically, over the last 5 years, you can see that is extremely low. And there, if we did a wider view, you would see historically we are at bottom rates. It's pretty phenomenal, and why the buyers have really jumped into the market today. And then the last place I always like to comment is the unemployment numbers, right? So as we know, due to the forced shutdown because of the health crisis and the pandemic, unemployment shot way up. And we've seen a little bit of recovery, slightly. This is May numbers for Santa Clara County. And it is significant, though. Obviously, we know the unemployment numbers are very significant. And but it has not made, obviously, too much of a dent on the housing market. So I really appreciate you listening to the metrics. And if you have any questions or comments about this, I would love to hear what you have to say. Or if there's some other perspective I can provide, do comment below and I'll be happy to respond. If you like these market updates and would like to be emailed them when they're available every month, you can sign up. I'll put the link below to my market update email list, and that email will definitely be sent out to you once a month as soon as this video is ready. So thank you so much for watching. Check out other stats or narrow this data down to your specific neighborhood on my website at homeownerexperience.com and search for the market stats link, and then you can refine the data down to your particular neighborhood. Thanks for listening. I'm Theresa Wellman with HomeownerExperience.com, your local San Jose, California realtor.